Good morning all, welcome again to this Friday morning's edition of Ask a Spark. My name is Garry, company is GESA Electrical. It's great to be back here and talk with you guys. Now, I've asked a question a few weeks ago of what is it that you guys would like me to talk about, and a few people actually gave me an answer. One of the questions which was asked was, is there such a thing as a full wiring inspection? Yes, there is. Does every electrician do it? No, unfortunately not. So let me just run through a few items which should be inspected, can be inspected, and what you do to inspect them. Let me start with the three things which you can do yourself. When you walk for your home, for your factory, for your workplace, whatever it is, and you just have a look around, have a general look and see if there's anything broken, if there's anything cracked, if there's anything which doesn't quite look right. Chances are it may not be. So the first inspection you can do is just be aware, have a look and see what you actually see. Make note of it. Now the other two things which you can do easily is you need to test regularly your smoke alarm and your safety switch. Let me quickly show you how that looks like. Every safety switch, and just grab one out of the shelf here, has a test button onto it. Can you see that? There's a little button here which I can test. Different brands of safety switches have different test buttons, but they all have it. If they don't have a test button, it is not a safety switch. Okay? So what you got to do is you got to push the button, and what happens is that this trigger will fall down and you flick it back up again. It's very simple, it's very easy, and it's safe to do so. There is literally only a number of occasions when it doesn't trip. Number one, it's buggered, or number two, you got a power loss. But hey, if you got a power loss, you've got nothing in general, you just got a blackout. Now it could also be that you're not able to flick it back up again. And I will make another series another day where I talk to you about safety switches. At this point in time, just make sure, push the button, it trips, you flick it back up, you're safe. The other thing you can test yourself is your smoke alarm. Your smoke alarm also has a test button. Push it, hold it for about 10 seconds. Yeah, it's going to make a horrible noise, but you know it works. If it doesn't do that, you know it obviously fails. Let's not forget, whenever you change over your smoke alarm battery, there's a sticker inside which actually tells you when it's been made or when it needs replacing. So this one here, which I got off the shelf, is already nearly a year old. Okay? So make sure that you check the diary, that the date in there, they're only good for 10 years. They're 10 years old, get your sparky in, replace it, get a new one which actually does work properly if the unfortunate happens. So these are the three things you can do. Be aware, look around, see if anything broken, doesn't look right, test your safety switch, test your smoke alarm. Now here are the things which we do when we go out for a wiring inspection. And we do them sometimes in conjunction with building inspectors. Building inspectors, they know their trade very well, they know what to look for structurally, they know what to look for in all different sorts of things in the building game. They don't know electrical necessarily. So we're working with three of them, and if they see something which doesn't look quite right, first thing is to do to give us a call and say, hi Gary, I've got this one here, here's a picture, what do you think? Second thing is, mate, I've seen something which definitely doesn't look right, I need you to come down here and have a wiring inspection. So these are the items which we look for. The first thing on my list, I got a bit of a cheat sheet next to me, is the consumer's mains. Consumer's mains is the mains cable coming into the house. We're checking out, is it in a good state as far as we can see it? Is it the correct size? What is it actually? What consumer's mains are you getting in? We then take a picture of the point of supply, which is where, when it comes from the street, connects to your home, to your premises, to make sure that that's all good. We look if the circuit protection is correct for the mains, which means, is it a fuse, is it a breaker, is that the way it's supposed to be? I gotta tick a box, yep, that's correct. We take a photo of your switchboard. There is so much stuff inside your switchboard which you don't say because it might be behind the escutcheon. There is what's called an MEN link, which stands for main earth neutral link. That makes sure that your earthing is correct. We look for correct labeling, and you wouldn't believe how often we find that things aren't labeled or something's been added, it's been completely shifted and it's out of whack, and you just don't know if it's actually correct. We check if you have surge protection. Surge is different to safety switches and breakers, and I explained that in a different video. Just have a look in the past. And we check if you've got RCDs or safety switches. These days you must have a minimum of 2, and in an ideal world every circuit should be in its own safety switch. At least this is the way I'd like to do things, and whenever you've worked with me, this is what I would have suggested you do. Okay, so I'm going to tick all of these now. The next item on the agenda is if there's anything not there of these, we'll of course let you know. Next item is RCD test, safety switch test. So not only do we do that push button test I explained to you earlier, we've got a fancy instrument which we can plug in, push a few buttons and read out what's happening. What it basically does, it makes sure the safety switch works correctly. There's a certain trip time here, actually it has to be in there, and it shouldn't be tripping with nuisance trips. So that tester actually does that. Us Sparky, we carry them around. It's just part of what we do. The next check would then be earthing system. Have you got an earth stake? Is the resistance from the earth stake low enough to actually be sufficient that if a fault occurs, it actually does trip? Is your water and your gas pipes bonded? Are they bonded? And is there continuity to the taps inside the house? If there's any issues, of course, let you know. Then there's a thing called fault loop impedance. Practically speaking, it just tests the cable around if it's the correct sizing, if it's the correct resistance. So if a fault occurs, can the breaker actually trip? That's what a fault loop impedance does. We go up into the ceiling space and we check the cabling up there if it's correct installed to a current Australian standard. And we also check, for example, which one of the common ones we know was the early homes, early homes, or also 60s, 70s homes. Some of those junction box lids were actually quite, the plastic wasn't the greatest. So over time with the heat in the ceiling space, it gets damn hot up there, really makes them crack. And then you got exposed live terminals. I nearly got caught out once. I've actually missed a junction box which was behind a piece of timber. And we did some wiring up there and I didn't see it. Nearly had my hand onto it and nearly got electrocuted because that lid just got brittle, fell off and exposed live terminals. And they can be hidden. So yeah, one of the things we are really careful about these days and we look at. Then we also inspect your shed if you should have one. If you have a shed, we make sure that it doesn't have its own switchboard and is the cabling up to standard. We got a client currently where somebody did their own home wiring and it's just not right. You wouldn't believe it. They had a building inspector picked it up. The previous owner said, yeah, we fixed it. Well, guess what? It hasn't. So unfortunately, up to the owner now to actually get this rectified. What do you do? Comments with that, fault loop impedance comments in there. Okay, pool, spa, outside power points and lights. On our checklist are the outside lights and power points in a good working order. Does the pool have correct earthing? And I'm going to make a different series because it was a different question about pools and earthing. So that's going to be another one of my next videos. Does the pool have correct earthing? Are there any conduits exposed and in need of mechanical protection? That could be the case too. If something is within arm's reach, which by definition is within 2.25 meters of flat surface, so you could potentially reach it, it must be mechanically protected. So no ifs and buts about it. Other one is pool fence. Is the pool fence bonded? Next on my list is then internal power points. We check every power point which we can potentially reach and which we know it's there. So we've got a little tester again. We check for correct polarity and if all power points are in a good condition and not cracked. It is quite often that, well, I shouldn't say it like that. There was a certain part out there where power points and switches they had faults and issues with them. And we can see that and they're cracking and they're just in a bad state. If that's the case, it's not safe and of course we got to let you know. Lighting and fan points. Are all light switches in good working order? Does the lighting circuit have an earth? And are fans, lights in good working order? Similar thing, switches sometimes die. They get worn out. Let's think about this. How often do you actually turn a light on and off? Is it fair to say that, let me just pick the bedroom, okay? Is it fair to say that in the morning you turn it at least on once and off once, and in the night the same? So that's 4 switching actions over 365 days in a year. That's still 1,500 times in a year that you use this one switch. Can you imagine that after, let's say, 10 years of service, after 15,000 actions, they might actually wear out? Chances are that may be the case. So this is one of the things we are actually looking for. Now also houses pre-91 may not have an earth at your light circuits. And that can be potentially pretty bad when people upgrade, let's say they're getting a ceiling fan installed or even a different light fitting. Now an earth must be present and we have to make sure that it's actually there. So fans, lights in good working order should be obvious, yet we find quite often that things are cracked or let's say fans wobble tremendously. So we have a look at it and we do let you know. Then we make a general summary of what we find there. And it's quite often the case as in the more you look, the more you find. Quite often everything is alright, but sometimes also you find something not right and then you start looking. And the more you look, the more you find. And based on what we find with our inspection so far, we make you recommendations. Now our job is to give you an inspection. Our job is not to say you must do this, and we're not trying to sell you anything. We try to make sure that you get the best information we can give you, and then you can make an informed decision based on that. At the end of it, we sign it all off, and of course, send you a copy. So I hope that's actually helpful, and yeah, basically the report which I just generated here in the background comes back anything between 2 and 10 pages, depending on how many pictures we take, and they're all part of the report. So I hope that was helpful, and it actually answers the question which got out there, if there is such a thing as a wiring inspection and what's actually being checked about. So yeah, Glenda, thanks so much for raising that question. Summarize it again. You can check visually what you can see, you can check your smoke alarm, and you can check your safety switch. By the way, how often should you do that? Sorry, I forgot about telling you that. Your smoke alarm, actually, if you read the instructions, it will tell you once a week. Nobody does it, trust me. Your safety switch, the standard says every 6 months you have to push the button. My recommendation is at least, at a very bare minimum, do it at the same time as you do your smoke alarm battery. If it's just once a year, it's better than nothing. If you do it once a month, great. If you do your smoke alarm once a week, awesome. Love you for it, because at the end of the day, it's your own safety we're talking about. If you don't do it, then please do it at least at once a year. Here's another reminder. How about you do it whenever the power bill comes in? That's 4 times a year. Push the button on the safety switch, push the button on the smoke alarm, make sure it works. It may save your life or the one of a loved one. I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for having me again. Garry from GESA Electrical, thanks for joining me this Friday. I look forward to see you again next week and talk to you about more questions which have been raised throughout the week. Have a great weekend and see you. Bye.